#5, pay no attention to the code. The O's sector announced itself by being absent. There should have been relay traffic. Cyrus had seen the old maps, lanes converging in silver spokes, dispatch vessels blinking their permits, administrative ferries making dignified loops until somebody on board found a stamp. The central relay had once translated greetings into approved forms, routed distress signals by tenderness quotient, and issued citations to ships whose wakes resembled feelings. Instead, there was a white disk of light with a hole cut into it. The relay hung at its center, a vast circular station, its outer ring dark except for one emergency beacon that pulsed green every 12 seconds. No ships waited in its docks, no messages crossed the navigation board. The doors were open. Cyrus held the paper sail a kilometer out and waited for a challenge. None came. The prince checked his signal reader. Broadcasts, from inside, addressed to all citizens, repeatedly. "A relay does not leave access doors open," said the glitch. "Maybe they're welcoming," said Cyrus, like a mouth during an electrical fault. Cindy Lou had already brought up the docking readout. The clamps still have power. "Of course they do," Cyrus said. "It would be rude to abandon a system halfway." She looked at him. "Dock us," he said. "The berth took them without resistance." That frightened Cyrus more than a warning would have. The paper sail slid into the open mouth of the relay and settled against the clamp arms with a careful apologetic touch. The station did not ask their names. It did not ask whether their ballast had been declared. It did not ask for payment, consent, or a grace certificate. The airlock beyond the hatch was lit a greenish color that made everybody look a little seasick and slightly supernatural. The broadcast met them before their helmets were off. "Welcome, participant. Please remain still while meaning is assigned. It knows we are here," said the prince. "It knows a door opened," said the glitch. "Please acknowledge your voluntary enrollment by nodding." Cyrus nodded. "Your nod has been recorded as a request for additional guidance." "Stop helping," Cindy Lou said. The corridor was broad enough for a queue that had never moved. Dust lay in its blue tiles. Brass plaques listed the Office of Welcome, the Office of Suitable Distance, and the Office of Forms concerning forms. Beneath the last, a faded paper sign, "Back in a moment." The broadcast followed them. "Please proceed to the amphitheater for mandatory reassurance." "Do you think it means us?" the prince asked. "It means whoever has the bad luck to hear it," said Cindy Lou. The corridor curved. Their footsteps made 4 separate sounds, and a fifth when Cyrus's loose left boot came down a fraction late. The relay had no windows. The walls were painted with a pleasant mural of a green city beside a river, all its citizens walking in one direction toward a palace shaped like a filing cabinet. In several places, the paint had bubbled away, showing bare gray metal beneath. Someone had tried to touch up one section with a different shade of green. It had not helped. One service panel latch had sprung free. The glitch stopped. "It should be secured." "It is open," said Cindy Lou. "An unlatched door, not a prophecy." The mirrors on his sleeve gave them warped green faces. Then he lowered his hand. "No, it is not." No one closed the panel. The velvet doors had faded to the color of old wine and stood apart by a handspan. A fan behind them made them breathe. "Very welcoming," Cyrus whispered. "Don't whisper," said the prince. "It may think that is a request." "Please do not whisper," said the broadcast. "Unverified intimacy creates routing ambiguity." "I do not like it," said the prince. "Good," said Cindy Lou. "You're awake." Cyrus parted the curtains. The amphitheater descended, in concentric rows, toward a low dais. Empty seats waited under a dome painted with stars. They had been upholstered in velvet, but the velvet had thinned to expose springs and patches, and dust had settled into every seat, as if the room had been quietly filling with gray water for decades. There were thousands of them. A single paper program lay on one chair near the aisle, its pages stuck together. Behind the dais, green curtains sagged to powdered hems. Through a gap, brass wheels turned at different speeds. One was turning backward. Above the dais hovered a green-faced figure made of grainy light. It had a broad forehead, high cheeks, a beard rendered in 100 glowing pixels, and eyes that looked into a distance no one had been standing in for a long time. Its robe was more title than garment. Gold letters floated around its head, "The Great and Administratively Necessary Oz." "Citizens," it said, "the Great and Administratively Necessary Oz has reviewed your cases." The prince involuntarily took one step backward. The hologram raised a transparent hand. "You have been found preliminarily eligible for connection pending the following." A screen appeared beside it. The list began to scroll. "Confirm that you have no unapproved needs. Confirm that you have not been caused by anyone. Confirm that you will not cause anyone. If a wake occurs, report it within 5 seconds. Smile, if able." The voice carried into every seat. It had the vastness of a command sent from very far away. Cyrus felt the old reflex in himself. Make it funny, make it smaller, make an exit before it had a chance to look back. He glanced at Cindy Lou. Her face had gone still in the way it did when a system was trying to pass something off as normal. "It is a privilege to be accounted for," said the green face. The hidden wheels turned. "It is a privilege to be accounted for," it said again, exactly the same. The glitch walked down 3 steps into the auditorium. That phrase was discontinued. The hologram did not look at him. "It is a privilege to be accounted for." "What did it say before that?" the prince asked. The glitch looked at the dais. His voice was careful, clipped around an old edge. It said, "You are seen." A chill moved through Cyrus, though the station air was too dry for one. The green face smiled its large digital smile. The wheels turned behind the curtain. The amphitheater waited in all its empty seats for compliance that had long ago stopped arriving. "Please take your assigned place," it said. The seat numbers lit along the rows. Hundreds of green dots appeared, one after another, filling the room without filling it. Cyrus heard a soft click from each chair as its restraint bar lifted. The prince clutched the rose bell. "We should leave," We're already leaving, Cyrus said, backward and quickly. Please remain, said Oz. Departure without closure may be interpreted as an event. Everything is an event to it, Cindy Lou said. Correct, said the glitch. That is how it retained jurisdiction. They started up the aisle. The green dots followed their movement, lighting seat after seat in front of them. The broadcast softened, which was worse. No one is required to stay, said Oz. To leave, please complete Form 88C, request to cease being present. Cyrus put a hand on the prince's shoulder and kept walking. The prince did not move quickly, but he moved. The glitch reached the top step and stopped. On the wall beside the exit was a brass maintenance plate. Dust had gathered at its edges. Someone had written on it with a dark grease pencil. Do not enable personal addressing after sector nightfall. The handwriting was clean and slanted, every final stroke slightly lifted as though it expected a door at the end of the line. The glitch looked at it for a long time. Cyrus did not ask. Cindy Lou did not ask. The prince, who asked questions for a living, lowered his eyes to the rows. Behind them, Oz said, please submit your reason for resistance. Cindy Lou looked past the dais, not at it. Where does the power come in? The glitch came back from the plate as if from a great distance. Behind the curtain, there will be a protected supply. 2 redundant feeds, a fail-safe battery, possibly a ceremonial switch. Possibly. Administrations enjoy a switch. Unauthorized stage access, said the voice. This is a confidence violation. Do you have a confidence? Cyrus asked. Please remain for a brief message regarding choice. The curtain edge had a tear near the floor. Cindy Lou slipped through it first, wrench in hand. Cyrus followed, expecting a chamber of polished black machines, perhaps a brain in a glass cylinder, perhaps a row of clerks who had become bones at their desks. He had not decided which he disliked more. Behind the curtain was a service alcove the size of a pantry. There was no brain. There was a power strip mounted to a wall. It sagged under 6 plugs. Each plug had been labeled by hand in yellowing tape. Face, voice, wheels, curtains, house lights. Do not unplug. The 6th label, a little separate from the others, read, please. A tiny desk fan rattled on a crate, aimed at the curtain machinery. It had a paper clip stuck through its grill. A mug sat beside it with a dried ring in the bottom and the words, world's most necessary function, painted on the side. One of the wheels was powered by a bicycle chain. The chain went around and around with a solemn, exhausted purpose. Cyrus stared. That, he said, is the throne of the known universe? Cindy Lou bent to inspect the strip. It's a 12-amp domestic extension circuit. The prince leaned through the tear. Why does it have 6 plugs? Because it has 6 needs, said Cindy Lou. That is much less than I expected. Everything has less than it says it has. The broadcast boomed from the other side of the curtain. The great and administratively necessary Oz invites you to reflect on the consequences of non-compliance. A beat. Consequences may include confusion, unscheduled weather, personal pronouns. The prince blinked. Personal pronouns? Terrifying, Cyrus said. It has a list of them, said the glitch. It means it is frightened too. Cindy Lou pointed to the 6th plug. What is that? The glitch crouched with difficulty, coat pooling around him. He wiped dust from the tape. Core loop, he said, or it was called that. The wording changes. Does it hold the station together? Asked the prince. No. Does it run the traffic? No. Does it govern human connection? The glitch's mouth made a small, unhappy movement. It broadcasts instructions about it. From the auditorium, Oz said, your feelings have been escalated to a higher authority. Cindy Lou put her wrench down and took hold of the plug labeled please. Do you know what that does? Cyrus asked. Yes. Really? No. That is more familiar. The glitch rose. If the core loop stops, it may trigger a restart. Maybe, she said. It may send an alert. Maybe. It may. Do you want it to keep talking? The glitch looked through the tear in the curtain at the huge green face. Its mouth opened and closed. The wheels clicked. On the other side of the station, no citizens were being assigned meaning. Nothing was waiting except them. No, he said. Cindy Lou pulled the plug. The green face vanished in the middle of the word mandatory. The curtain stopped breathing. The wheels coasted one after another. The backward wheel gave a final contrary half-turn. The desk fan wound down with a soft whine. The house lights dimmed and steadied on a low amber circuit. No alarm sounded. No doors slammed. No fleet arrived to say that something impossible had been done. The system did not crash. It went quiet. Cyrus heard the blood in his ears, which annoyed him because it had not filed a flight plan. He stood with one hand still raised toward the curtain, halfway through a gesture that had been meant to become a joke. Without the broadcast, there was nowhere to throw the joke. It sat in his chest, small and unfinished. He let his hand fall. Across the aisle, rows of empty velvet seats had no opinion of him. The station had a faint mineral smell now that the voice was gone, dust, warm wire, dead fabric. He thought of the anchorite's window, looking at a rock because a rock was what was actually there. He thought of the paper sail aft hold, and the 4 black blocks waiting without expectation. For once, the silence did not feel like a door closing. It felt like a room, after someone had stopped rearranging the furniture around him. The prince set the rose bell down on the floorboards. He had held it through docking, the corridor, the open curtains, the green face, and the list of requirements. His hands came away from the glass with pale circles pressed into them. The rose did not complain. Its leaves were still. He looked up at the painted dome where stars faded under dust, then at the dead face on the blank projector screen. His signal reader hung at his side, full of lonely frequencies gathered over 3 years, each one a tiny proof that someone had sent a sound into a distance. He did not turn it on. He listened instead to nothing arriving. The nothing had shape. It was not an answer. It was not the absence of an answer either. It was simply not being told what the question had to be. Cindy Lou remained crouched beside the power strip, holding the plug in her fist. The metal prongs were warm. Her thumb rubbed the label until please became only a smear of old glue. She counted the remaining plugs. 5. She counted the screws holding the strip to the wall. 2. She counted the revolutions left in the largest wheel until it stopped. 7. Then she stopped counting. This was not a decision. It was more like missing a step in the dark and finding the floor was still there. Behind the dais, the wall was bare steel. Behind the steel was space. Behind space, she knew, were lights and weather and other people making mistakes with maps. She walked to the torn curtain and stood where she could see the amphitheater through it. Thousands of seats, not one person in them. The room had been built to watch something. She looked at the empty seats until they became seats and not a number. The glitch stayed near the brass plate. In the silence, his coat made its small sounds plainly, paper edges shifting, mirror backs tapping, a button at the cuff striking another button. They were no longer hidden under instruction. He touched the grease pencil writing with one finger but did not erase it. The words were his. He knew the angle of the letters. He knew the particular impatience in the lifted final stroke. He did not remember writing them, not as a scene he could enter, but his hand knew the hand. Behind him, the unlatched service panel remained open. Cables rested in their dust. No one accused him, no voice requested a reason. He looked down at his coat and then at the empty stage. For a moment he put his hand inside the coat, as if checking whether all the old witnesses were still there. They were, but they had nothing to say in the quiet. He took his hand out and left the top clasp undone. The silence continued. It was long enough for Cyrus to notice the tiny tick of the station's cooling pipes. Long enough for the prince to adjust the Rose Bell's latch without being prompted by a complaint. Long enough for Cindy Lou to sit in one of the front row seats and test its broken spring with her weight. Long enough for the glitch to breathe in, then out, without a protocol attached to either action. Cyrus walked through the curtain and sat beside Cindy Lou. He did not say anything. The 6 seconds permitted at the port would have passed and required a form. Here no form appeared. The prince came down the aisle and sat one seat away, leaving the Rose Bell and the empty chair between them. The glitch sat at the end of the row, coat dark and unbuttoned at the throat. He sat as though he could leave at any second. He did not. A clunk sounded high above them. Cyrus looked up. A hairline split had opened in the painted dome. Dust sifted from it in a narrow stream. The relay gave a long metallic groan deep enough to feel under the seats. Cindy Lou stood. That is not the core loop. No, said the glitch. He was already moving toward the service alcove. The core loop was masking maintenance alerts. Of course it was, Cyrus said. Why have an alert when you can have an affirmation? The station lights flickered. From somewhere in the outer ring came a series of dull, faraway pops. Not explosions, more like old bolts letting go of a story they had been holding too long. Cindy Lou reached the alcove and pressed her palm to the wall. Her face went pale, which for Cindy Lou was nearly theatrical. The relay's outer balance ring is out of alignment. Can it be fixed? Asked the prince. Yes, she said. Then, after looking at the trembling power strip and the idle wheels, not by us. Not before it comes apart. The glitch was reading the service panel, his finger moving down lines that no longer lit correctly. The navigational field is collapsing toward the margin. Cyrus's humor arrived late and poorly dressed. The stellar margin? Wonderful. I was worried today had insufficient weather. The first crack across the dome lengthened. A painted star separated from the ceiling and fell, not fast but with purpose, landing 2 rows below them in a puff of plaster dust. The prince picked up the Rose Bell. We must go. Cindy Lou looked once at the unplugged strip. Leave it. Yes, said the glitch. They ran not wildly because the relay was too old to deserve wildness and because the paper sail waited at the end of a corridor with 400 kilograms of declared stone in her hold, but quickly enough that their footsteps became one sound. Behind them, the amphitheater remained quiet. The green face did not return. The empty seats did not ask them to stay. At the airlock, Cyrus looked back through the narrowing door. The green curtains hung still. Dust passed through their torn edges. The wheel behind them had stopped at last. Then the relay shuddered, and the open access doors began to close one by one. Hashtag Act 3, The Wake and the Harbor.